Hi, thank you for watching Dig into China. I'm Dong Sheng. In mid-July, Beijing reported that its economy grew 7.9% in second quarter compared to the same quarter last year. Although this is stronger than many other countries, it is much slower than the first quarter, which grew more than 18% than last year. The entire world has been digesting whether China's recovery will continue to slow down. If so, it could drag down the rest of the global economy. Manufacturing, auto sales, and consumer spending have recovered to above pre-pandemic levels. Exporters benefited from the relatively early reopening, while China's foreign competitors still were hampered by anti-disease controls. In June, China's exports surged more than 32% over the year before. But a government spokesman warned the trade growth might weaken. The trade war with the US is still lingering. President Joe Biden says he wants better relations with Beijing, but has yet to say whether he will roll back tariff hikes imposed by his predecessor, President Donald Trump. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen called for a unified front with Europe against China's unfair economic practices. Biden has expanded the list of Chinese companies Americans are barred from investing in due to possible military connections. The International Monetary Fund and the private sector forecasters expect economic growth this year of about 8%, but say they should decline in 2022. Beijing has been trying to steer China to slower, more sustainable growth based on domestic consumption instead of exports and investment. Even though China has largely contained the spread of COVID-19, but there has been sporadic surge in various regions. The ongoing uncertainty of the pandemic weighs over the recovery. The rising cost of raw materials is eating into the profit of factories and retailers. While export remains strong and people are shopping more, but small businesses are suffering. The inflation factor alone indicates that the economy is weaker than the number released by Beijing. For example, retail sales in June could have been overstated. Rising prices also suggest that the Chinese economy's performance in the second quarter might not be sustainable. Chinese leadership has sent warning signals. Premier Li Keqiang held at least 3 meetings in 1 week in July to discuss economy's health. After each meeting, a statement was issued ordering new measures to sustain growth. The most important of these measures was a policy shift by the central bank: help small businesses to get loans. Starting in mid-July, commercial banks can keep smaller cash reserves. These measures aim to boost lending and consumer spending. Bear in mind, China has already accumulated mountains of debt. Many borrowers have become cautious about taking out loans, particularly retailers. They fear they might not be able to repay additional loans. The latest data may signal the limits of China's post-pandemic recovery. Barclays Bank said in a research note that China seems to have settled into a new annual growth range of 5% to 5.5%. While considerably better than the growth in most Western countries, it is slower than the 6 to 6.5% growth China saw before the pandemic. The CCP has radically modernized its economy policies over the past 3 decades. These reforms propagated the significant growth of the Chinese middle class. As a result, the growing middle class has come to perceive the CCP as being responsible for their rising levels of prosperity. However, China still faces many hurdles to overcome. Other than the mountain of debt, the increasing gap between rich and poor poses a great threat. It is becoming increasingly difficult in China for college graduates to find jobs, and tens of millions of workers are out of work. the possibility of a financial crisis in China could challenge Beijing's ability to hold up its side of the deal with the population. If the CCP cannot sustain economic growth, it could be perceived by members of the growing middle class as violating the social contract that has existed between China's citizens and the country's ruling party elite. However, the economic downturn will not eliminate the CCP's influence in China. Thanks to means of physical repression, censorship, and an environment where fear of speaking out is a legitimate means of control. Due to the advanced technologies including surveillance, censorship, and controlled access to information, the Chinese authorities are empowered as never before to monitor, identify, and censor those whose activities are a perceived threat to the party. The most significant threat to the power monopoly held by the CCP is a pronounced economic downturn. Even though it won't overthrow CCP, but the CCP won't be able to emerge unscathed either. China experts predicting the collapse of the CCP have been proven wrong decade after decade. But one-party governments have rarely survived longer than 70 years. The Communist Party of the Soviet Union ruled for 74 years before the bloc collapsed in 1991. And Mexico's Institutional Revolutionary Party retained power for 71 years until its defeat in the 2000 elections. China's only contemporary competition is North Korea, which has been ruled by the Kim family dynasty for 71 years since its founding in 1948. In China, CCP has ruled China for 72 years. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly.